I would say a lot of the times when you're talking to IT only, they're never able to get the company to essentially back the CMMC initiative. It's just like an IT project. And that's just generally about bad leadership where they just can't get behind.
Welcome to Trust Issue by BEMO, the podcast where we go beyond checkbox compliance and get real about security. In every episode, we will break down what's happening in the world of CMMC, cybersecurity, and GRC. Straight from the people building, auditing, and living it. Real conversation about real security.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Trust Issues. Today, we're bringing back Cindy Oliveto, our Senior Director of Operations, to talk about mock audits, kind of what they are. Should you do them? Should you not do them? Some clients are doing them. Some clients are not doing them. What does that look like? And some auditors are doing them and not all auditors are doing them. So we're kind of talking everything mock audits today. So I thought, Cindy, we'd kind of open up with something very broad. Just what is a mock audit? How is it different from the actual CMMC Level 2 certification?
So when you're under a mock audit, you don't have the scrutiny of having to finish and a report to the government. So it allows you to take your notes, go through everything. You're going through the process exactly like you would be going through your own audit. So it gives you a trial run of what it would feel like, the cadence of it, what the auditors ask for. And then as you discover potential deficiencies, you can take note of those and, remediate them either as you go through or immediately after. What you are hoping for is that you are receiving 80% of your audit approval through that process, if not 100, right? It's what we all hope for. But zero, what they call no poamable items. So non-poamable, the plan of action and milestone items. And so anything that's not poamable can be on that list. Otherwise, you immediately would fail an audit. So in a mock, you can have a non-poamable item, but if you fix it right away within 10 days, some auditors will allow you to just roll right into your audit schedule and then be able to further remediation within the actual audit, and things can take a lot less time in your actual audit thereafter.
Mm. So the first benefit is you can yeah, I mean, I see a lot of benefits immediately, right? The first one is you think you're going to pass, or you think you're going to get a score of, let's say, somewhere between 88 to 110. But for whatever reason, one of the auditors says that you failed a non-poamable control, and then you immediately fail. And had it been an actual certification, they would have just said, fail, see you in 6 months. You're going to have to owe me another $50,000, right?
That's exactly right. You pay again the full price. So the benefit of the mock audit is you pay less, right? For an insurance that you are more ready and you don't have to pay twice for your full audit, right? If something were to come up.
One thing I will add to what you said, Brian, I think for our audience to realize today, again, as part of the discussion, as part of the Cyber AB monthly meeting, town hall is 80% of people today are failing the first phase. So it's not that people are failing, they are not ready. So it goes back to, you think you are ready, you come, you are not ready, and you will have to start paying extra fees each time you're not ready.
The other thing too is that when you're not ready, and you have to reschedule your subsequent meetings with the auditor, many auditors have penalty clauses and turn that. So it's not only the penalty of the repay, but it's like you get a 5% or 10% fee because you're shifting a date on the schedule. And it just can become costly.
Yeah, people have to understand from the C3PAO, I book my resources. Again, you book, we say, okay, we'll do phase one on that day, and 2 weeks later, we will do phase two. Or if you don't pass phase one, you are screwing up the C3PAO schedule. So it's why they have to make you pay fee if you are not ready. It's your fault, not theirs.
Right. They're just there to examine basically. But now if you're saying, "Oh, actually I can't show up for part 2 of the test." You're like,
Yes.
"Well, I have other tests to go do to go
Yes,
proctor,
exactly,
right?
exactly, exactly.
And you can no longer proctor them, basically.
Because I
Um,
have seen customers thinking, they want to get more money out of me. No, you are screwing up their business because of your.
yeah, yeah, because you're taking longer, right? Like you're
Exactly.
actually not ready. Are most people doing a mock audit these days? Is it like 50-50? Is it in the minority?
Most people, we encourage them to do it. If not, if they've already signed with an auditor that doesn't offer the service, that's that's another scenario we deal with. We then, have a service on our side, which we will say, okay, well, your auditor doesn't offer this, but on our side, our process is that we will run through a mock with our team and our CCA that we have, even though he's not actually practicing, right? But we will run through that process to make sure that you are as ready as possible. Is it, as good as running it through it with your audit team? No, because when you do a mock with an audit team, they know your system, they know your process, they've already read every single policy and procedure, they've seen every single piece of evidence in that mock. And they are ready for, after that mock, they are ready for your full audit 10 days later and they are good to go. They are not looking at, you know, every single detail because they have already seen it. Most of them will be like, okay, I've seen that. I have the evidence for it. Or can you show me this again? And let me just make sure that, or I wanted to see something else. I took a note and it moves much faster in that next phase. Whereas if we are doing it and they didn't go through a mock audit with an auditor, their audit's still going to be painful, right? Auditors are going to be looking at everything.
And it's painful on the fact, again, with no mock, you cannot fail. You have no net.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy, and I think the way to kind of describe it to a lot of people who've gone through school, right, is when you take your any sort of standardized test, they're allowing you to redo all the failed questions, not retake a brand new test 10 days later, but you actually just get to fix the exact questions you got wrong essentially on a second pass. And even though it's, obviously these certifications are already like $50,000 for the triannual, certification, and being asked to pay an extra 6 to 7,000 to $10,000 seems like a lot. But at that point, it's like you might as well not fail. And the other benefit too seems like you could go through the mock, or actually you could go through the actual certification, and maybe get an SPRS score of like, let's say 90 or something. But had you gone through the mock, it would have allowed you to go fix all the errors and then be able to report a score of 110,
Yeah.
right?
Be
Or
closer
be
to be able
closer.
to
Sure.
report 110. Yeah.
We still do not adjust your mock score. That's a good important point to be. But you know yourself where you are firming things up and how you're going to get there. Another thing that comes out of it is if you do find something in the mock and it's a process and procedure type of area, that you thought, well, I'm going to do it this way because I think that's the way I do my business. And the auditors go, I don't think that's going to meet my need, right? Uh, you will be rewriting that process, internally. And it could be an internal tool, it could be an internal process, it could be something else, right? We feel pretty confident in our security processes and the way that we have them because they've been through, the CMMC certification, they've passed through audit, and we know that they work. And so we try to keep those consistent with our customers on our side of the fence. But on the business side, there might be some items over there that they could have to, make a few additional changes.
Right, right. What are some maybe examples from the mock? I don't know if you guys are open to talk about it, but do you know what our score was during the mock, and then what is the score that we actually ended up being reported?
We were 97 out of 110 at the mock. So to give the audience, so the example, so we had no problem on the IT side, but an example that we had BEMO, we use passkey. So the password is a backup of the passkey. And as part of our process, we have a minimum of 14-digit password. So you go through again, intra and purview, you show everything, and we show 14 character. Great. We went to our procedure, is so 14 character. But we went to our policy, and it was written 12. Oh, so the auditor said, whoa, I can see you're 14, but your policy said 12. Boom. It will be a non-POAMable item. You will lose 5 points, and you will be out.
Yeah, it's
If
it's
it
an
was.
instant fail control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, it took us 2 minutes and having to re-sign the policies, but so it didn't take
It's
long to
strict,
fix.
but it's strict. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's very by the book. Like, yeah.
And there's a constant
There's a
reevaluation throughout the process. So when you start your policies and procedures, first getting your boundary in place, that's one of the things, the CUI boundary in place. It's one of the things that drives everything in your SSP. And then your policies and procedures. And it's a constant revisiting of the ones that are trickling down and making sure that they all align. And you said this over here and this over here, and you're doing this over here, and you have evidence. So that all crosswalk across your systems is mandatory. You can't go into audit without doing that. I mean, it's the recipe for disaster, because you really can uncover minute things that you're like, oh, I should just tweak this a little bit. It'll.
Were there a lot of changes that we made? So you're saying, Cindy, that we had the mock audit 10 days later, or I guess because we had such a high score on the mock audit, they were able to schedule us 10 days later.
No, you have to. No,
you have 10
it
days.
has to be 10 days. The limit is 10 days if you don't want to restart from
If
scratch.
you don't want to restart from scratch.
So
Okay.
it's up, from their perspective, from our C3PO, is no more than 10 days.
Okay.
So the cool part for us, it's a very heavy process. Again, you go through the mock. You always have, from the CMMC, you always have to have 3 auditor minimum. They need to have 3. So you have the BEMO team, you have the C3PO, 3 people live, and it's pretty stressful. It's the whole day for a week, and you go through everything. So
it's every
the
day
last
for a
thing
week.
Yes.
And
wow.
3 days for a week.
So the last thing you want is, like, whoa, I have to redo it again in 30 days, the same process. No, yeah, I will do my best to fix anything you find in 10 days.
Yeah.
And that I can carry over
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Because I
So
never want to
it's,
see you again.
I don't ever see you again.
Yeah. Were there a lot of changes that BMO made in that 10-day period? Like, was there a lot of work we had to do, or is just mostly policy work?
It was policy work. Because, well, from an IT, we were all done. So it's why. So even, the C3PO say, wow, I love your IT system, straightforward, well done. You guys know what you do. But, and I also think the C3PO has to find stuff, even on a mock. I mean, I almost feel like,
You want them to prove something a little bit.
You have thousands of pages between the SSP, the policy, the procedure. I have no doubt you can find
Mistakes.
We try our best to run it, but you can find mistakes.
Yeah, it's like the SSP itself might be 300 to 400 pages, but once you include all the procedures, all the policies, all the evidence, you're at like 1,100 pages worth of stuff, and it takes a long time. It's not like it's like a very fun novel to read.
And we've automated, comparing the documents and things like that, but you still have to read them because the context is important. And no matter what kind of automation you're employing, it's not going to get 100% in all cases.
Right. And if you're going to make references, if you're going to make references on page 900 to page 3, you better have read page 3 to make sure. And so a lot of it seems like it's very time consuming because you're making sure all the references are correct, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And and policies connect to one another. So, if you say it, like we developed a process for how we are going to do our internal POAM and risk management, right? As part of this whole ecosystem. And so what was apparent to us is that, gosh, we have to operationalize this. We have to put a system in place. We don't want to have anything randomly stored in a document or anything like that. So we work solely out of our ticketing system. And so making sure that what we defined as to how we would create the poem entry in our ticketing system, how we would create the risk, how we would link them together, then how we would create the report views and then review them in our cab process, right? All of that had to be documented in our procedures, right? And anywhere that we referenced it had to also be documented the same way, right? And so that was a new item for us as to how we operated, and it really underscored how the whole CMMC system that we have, right, is a system by design, right? It's just not doing
Yeah,
your same processes
you're not
anymore.
getting there by accident. You're
Mhm.
not gonna walk. You're
Right.
Yes.
not walking your way into a CMMC
You
certification.
you create an
Exactly.
entirely new operating model
Hmm.
and all the systems underneath it to make sure you're on top of
This
everything.
goes back. It's always, when we tell customers, and for me, I always said the successful customer that walk into the first call, very often Brandon and I would have, if it's the IT person only, it will very often fail. If it's the IT person and someone from the executive team, you are like, okay, now we can talk because they realize CMMC is not an IT, it's a company.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of the times when you're talking to IT only, like they're never able to get the company to essentially back the CMMC initiative, because they're just like, oh, it's just like an IT project. I feel like it's generally about bad leadership, generally, where they just can't get behind like we have to do this. It's going to be $500,000 to finally comply with DFAR 7012 that we haven't been doing for the last 10 years. And then like also doing all this stuff, right? Internal audits, external audits, and everything. So yeah, it amounts to a lot. And the IT person, the sysadmin is not going to corral everybody to go do all those things, right? Worse, if you have, a lot of these places are machine shops, and there's also a physical visit, right? In-person visit, and it's like, wow, you're definitely not going, it's already hard enough virtually. I can't imagine what it's like when someone is like walking around with their board, yeah, their board writing stuff down in person. It sounds like if you are a contractor, you have actually kind of a lot of due diligence to do with your C through PAO. One, you should be asking them if they offer mock audits. One, two, you should also be asking. It sounds like, if I do a mock audit, will you let me convert it to the actual audit afterwards? Because it sounds like they might not do that as well, depending on the auditor.
Correct. I mean, it's just really how they function and operate. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of there's just a lot of knowledge is maybe a little bit unfairly so that they have to go do and research, and how would they know to ask these questions, right?
No, in that we can, again, we work with some of them, so we can already
Right.
tell
We
them
know. Yeah.
we know of this one. So you ask us, we tell you, oh,
Yeah.
this one, this one we don't know, this one we know, and we know they don't do mock.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So for both of your perspectives, you would say 100% you should do mocks then.
Yes, it's worth the 7 to 10 extra K. Yes, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah.
You will save it, you will sleep better, and it's just, for me, there's a difference between I go do a test and I know if I fail. Just imagine I'm a company, I fail and like, shit, I miss my CMMC. Because of that, I cannot bid on contract and I may go out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Just like,
consequences are high.
just because you don't want to spend the
Um,
extra 10,000 to add a safety net.
so what
Wow.
what happens if you like failed the mock, like you truly like fail, and let's say you were getting a score of like negative 150 on a mock audit. Like can that happen?
Then I think I would expect, and we have never seen that, but I would expect the C3PO saying, okay, we will not even go through the
All of
next
them?
test,
Yeah.
reset all, and let's
Mm,
talk in 6 months. I
yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
I would expect. I would think after a few hours. Again, I was
the first
told by
hour. Yeah.
after
Well,
a few hours, people realize if you have your stuff together or not.
Yeah.
I mean, they realize in the first review when they're looking at, a lot of the auditors, they send you a workbook. And in that workbook, they ask you to answer about 100 questions, right? They all have to do with the, CUI boundary or the first sections 1 and 2 of the SSP, but in some case, they're looking for how you run your business. And if you can articulate in that workbook what you do, how you do it, it makes sense to them and they review it and you have your first little session and that's what gets you past the gate to even
Oh, I see.
step a meeting to start and to schedule your mock audit. Like they're just like
Yes.
they will test you first, right? So you just can't like
They're
schedule
not gonna waste
because
their
they will
time.
no.
Yeah.
They're not
The
going to
only
schedule
issue,
your resources unless you're together to a
the only
certain
thing
degree.
people need to know, they cannot tell you what's wrong. So you will have your meeting number 1. They will start to ask you question and they will say, "We are not ready." But I cannot tell you how to
Right.
fix. They are not ready. That how do I do that? I cannot tell you. The auditor cannot.
Right. If you
Yeah.
say, "What did I get wrong?" They
Yeah,
won't tell you
they
what
won't.
you got wrong.
No.
That can be very frustrating.
Okay. Yeah, because each time now you will go see them, you have to reschedule and pay 10%. So you
Yeah.
could be paying 10% for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And then the auditor will feel like, oh, those guys don't know what they are doing. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of, at the end,
Yeah,
it's just like,
there's a little bit of the first impressions, right? Like if you seem really organized, and obviously they're not going to be lighter on you, but whenever you have a good impression of someone, you have a little bit of bias where you're like, oh, I know what they're doing. Versus if you're wasting my time, and this company or client has a reputation of being a bad client or not organized, you're like, all right, I really have to look into this. And you're going to end up putting probably more detail into it, right?
We have one customer that has, they've been through their audit, they're CMC certified. They have a wonderful internal process in terms of their own um, CAB process weekly. They meet on their poem and their risks and other items with their internal team. And they invite us, they'll intend to invite us to the table there from the IT side. And it's a great cadence of working. They really understand what it takes to manage CMMC in their business environment and engage all stakeholders, right? Many of our customers haven't matured to that level yet. They're like, we're walking them into this process and we're determining, okay, how much do you want to run and own? How much do you want to? Some of our customers have their own RPO and that will manage the poem, manage the risks and all. And we feed them our operational information and, sync with that person and make sure they have everything they need. Some of our customers are like, no, you guys do all that. Okay. But it really doesn't change the customer responsibility. They still have to be at the table. It's just different sorts doing it, right? So it's not like the responsibility changes, right? Or in terms of what you have to do. It's just who is doing it, right? But you still have the stakeholders that have to abide by the process, have to participate together, have to be involved, because theoretically we aren't deciding on their behalf. They are. We are just surfacing the information they need to know, and then, decisions are made, and they are the approvers of those decisions.
again, for me, it's, they have to understand, again, you want to be CMMC, it's going to change. It may, for many of our customers, change the way you run your business. And it's why it's a company decision, because you like it or not, is how you will have to do it. We, BEMO, will help you, but we cannot make you change your mind. If you don't want to do it, you just want a checkbox.
It really is a company or like just a maturity thing. Whether, you're a parent trying to tell your kid to do their homework, and it's like, if you're going to make us be the parents and have to nag you, like it's just not going to work. You yourself have to be like, I am going to be an A+ student, right? Like I am going to do the work myself. I'm going to study from this time to this time and like do all that stuff, right?
Right, or I'm going to be the responsible parent,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
will work with you, teacher. I will work with you, teacher. We'll
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
the end, I cannot force your kid to do it. Only you
Exactly.
parents. So here is the same.
Yeah.
I like your analogy. This is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same
Yeah. Yeah.
thing. You know.
Yeah.
But I think people very often they call BMO and can you raise my kid?
Yeah. Can you raise my kid?
Can, exactly.
Yeah.
I will not be there. I will not make a decision. I let you be. I want you to be at the audit with me. If nothing fails, I did a great job. If it fails, I think BMO, you screwed up.
I'm gonna give you some money. I'm not going to help you. Just give me the
Yeah.
piece of paper. And it's just like, you
Exactly.
will fail.
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
And
100%.
the thing is, like, you can tell from the very first meeting with the client. And I'm sure the see-through POs can also tell from the first meeting with the client of just like, these guys are just not going to get through it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. We had a call. I mean, of a customer said that they were going to call back their C3PO because they are pissed at them because they are not able to pass phase one. I don't understand. And when we talk to that person, we are like, and we open the hood, we are like, of course, no way. The C3PO cannot tell you why, which is the reason why you
I
can
can
be
tell
pissed
you
at him
why.
as much as
Yeah.
yeah. We can tell you why, and you
Yeah.
don't want to listen why you're not failing. So
Yeah. Yeah, I remember he couldn't pass phase 1, and he was even thinking about going to another C3PAO because he couldn't pass phase 1. And while he was sharing his screen, you could see, an Excel spreadsheet with all of the passwords in the company in clear text. And I remember just being like, "Hey, like, I'm just telling you that, like, that's not gonna pass." And he's like, "Well, I'm not part of the audit." "Uh, you're the director of IT? What do you mean you're not part of the audit?" He's like, "Yeah, like, that's the CEO's gonna go be on that call." And I'm like, "Oh, wow. Oh, no, like, that's not how that works. You're all gonna have to be on the call." And, like, I can tell you that, but if you're the C3PO, you're just gonna be like, "Pat, like, fail." And you're like, you're not gonna know why, right? But this was a great conversation. Thank you, Cindy, for coming on and talking about mock audits. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Boyden.
That is another episode of Trust Issue. In this conversation, help you think differently about compliance, security, or trust. Share it to help someone who is still stuck in a checkbox mode. Each week, we will keep bringing you more episodes, resources, and real-world insight from the BEMO team. Wherever you are listening from, don't forget to rate the podcast and follow us to stay up to date on the latest development in the GRC space. Remember, compliance gets you certified, but real security, that earns trust. Thank you for listening.